When did you first become acquainted with Bob Douthitt?
Well, he was always sort of there.
Could you describe the nature of your relationship?
Complicated. I looked up to him. At times, he was something of a father figure to me.
Oh, he was a very loving and caring father. Sometimes, I guess, kind of like a foreman, though.
I also had a bit of a middle management role. I was the one who coached Robbie's basketball team, not Dad. There was, a lot of licking of index tabs. Like the kind you had used to set off sections of a 3-ring binder. Dad really liked himself a 3-ring binder. So he liked himself a lot of index tabs. And I had to lick them all.
It was a mess. Stuff was stapled together wrong. There were 2-hole punched pages along the side instead of at the top, which is an egregious error in my dad's eyes. The 2-hole punches for the top, the 3-hole punches for the side. And so we came in and, but looking back, he wasn't angry. He just instead sort of smiled, laughed to himself as if to kind of say, maybe he's too young at age 7 to be doing something like this.
During the course of working for Bob, were you allowed to take breaks?
Well, Dad was very clever about that. He set us up in the Lukens and Annis break room with our index tabs and our hole punches. And that way, since we were in the break room, we were always on break. So where would we go to take a break since we were already in the break room? So I'd spend 9 or 10 hours a day on break.
What about when he moved offices for Great Clips?
Well, then he called that office the break room.
Did you receive compensation for the work you performed for Bob?
Yes, we did. Dad had this elaborate system of credit set up where we would earn back the money that he spent on us for things like food and utilities. And he would prorate those based on the child's age and weight. So I was always a chubby kid, which put me at a disadvantage in the credit system.
Any psychological trauma?
Yeah, I have a psychiatrist that's diagnosed me. I have a phobia of long-form emails, especially those that come in bullet point form, with a particularly acute phobia of Roman numerals. It's in the DSM-5.
Just knowing that he was going to edit a high school paper of mine, the night he would do the editing, just gave me so much anxiety. He had very little patience for the simplest of mistakes or any unsupported conclusions. And they'd always ask so many questions and then become visibly annoyed if I didn't have an answer for him. Like, how dare I have not anticipated every single question? And why wasn't my thesis statement broken up by bullet points? But because of that, there was just a lot of heavy sighing during those sessions. Palpable disappointment.
No, nothing. Nothing at all. I'm fine. Hey, by the way, hey guys, so what's with all this clutter? This clutter? It's just laying out on the desk. I mean, if you don't have a clear desk, a nice clean desk, you're never gonna have a clear mind. So it's just you're never gonna be able to keep anything straight. Do you have a folder labeled depositions? What do you mean maybe? Either have it or you don't. Here. Oh, so you have a folder. you're gonna use that folder and just have everything loose in there. Here, give it. Yeah. Gosh. Okay. Now. Okay. Now you can keep yourself straight. So I'll let you have this one.
What 3 things would Bob bring to a desert island?
Are there office supplies on this desert island?
No.
Well, it's going to be pretty hard to narrow it down then.
Surely you can.
At hole punches alone. There are 2 hole punches, 3 hole punches, and then you need an accordion file to put your punch paper in. So it makes no sense to even talk about bringing hole punches to a desert island if you can't bring more than 3 things. And that doesn't even begin to address legal pads.
Okay, besides office supplies, what 3 things would he bring to a desert island?
Well, that's easy. There's a gigantic can of beer, a gigantic brick of cheddar cheese.
And third?
That would be the Bob Douthitt signature condiment pack. Technically one item. It's a jar of Jif, saran wrapped, to a squeezable bottle of French's yellow mustard.
What's that for?
For spreading on the cheese.
To follow up, are there any other midlife crises your dad has had that you can recall?
Besides quitting his law practice to break into the beauty industry?
You know, I guess you could say that running for the school board was a midlife crisis. Gave him something to commit himself to after retirement. You know, a place for him to ask all those very difficult and thorough questions they otherwise wouldn't be able to ask. But from what I understand, it's a good thing he did ask those questions. You know, he'll never take any of the credit. He'll tell you it's the superintendent or Steve Gehring, other administrators, principals, teachers, and it's all of them. But I don't think it's a coincidence that, you know, as he's winding down his time on the board, New York Times is publishing a story about all of the great things, all the progress that's being made at Rogers High School over the past few years. You know, all the opportunities that students now have that weren't available before. I remember some of our earliest conversations about what he wanted to do on the board after he got elected. He's talking about improving Rogers' graduation rate. You know, he made sure he got to the bottom of it, really figured it out. And I'm sure a lot of people had to answer a lot of tough questions. But he made sure there were solutions. And I think he was also really inspired by what had been done at North Central. And wanted to see if, you know, the things that had been done there could be done similarly at lesser performing, more impoverished schools. And now, you know, not only is the graduation rate way up at Rogers, but the kids are exposed to these college-ready classes and just great programs available to the kids there. And I think that Rogers is just one example of Dad really focusing on making Spokane schools not only more higher achieving generally, but also more equitable for all of its students. Again, I think he's going to deflect the credit to those who are doing the work, and he should do that because doing the work is the hardest. But I know that Dad has been at least a catalyst for a lot of that stuff. And I don't think that's so much of a bad legacy for a midlife crisis.
So now that he's done with school board, what do you think is next for him?
Survivor Season 35.
Survivor Season 35, definitely.
I mean, Survivor's still going on, right? Season 35?
If you hadn't figured it out, those were the 3 Douthitt boys, and that video was the brainchild of Jim Hedemark up here, so great job. Our first presenter this evening is a good friend of mine. he gave me his introduction, which I'm going to skip because it's, I mean, really, I can't say this kind of stuff. But he and Bob have known each other since the early 1980s when they joined Lukens and Annis as attorneys. And I'm going to say L&A a few times, and that's who it is, Lukens and Annis, because it comes up, and I don't want to slip on the second word. But and this guy is such a big spender that his second date with his now wife was to Bob's oldest son's first birthday, Lee. So with that, I'll introduce Bill Hislop, my good friend.
Well, welcome everybody. Robert, would you like to come join us up here? So, in case you didn't know, this is Bob Douthitt. Subject Douthitt. So, don't you think that Lee and Chris and Robbie captured Bob absolutely perfectly? You know, Bob, they love you, and they were absolutely thrilled to be a part of this, and they did a great job. They're each fabulous kids. They take after their mother, but they love you very much. And they were a bit worried for you, Bob. They know you pretty well. How would Bob do with this tonight? How would you react? You know, would you be anxious, Bob? I mean, there's so much, Casey said there's so much available material on Bob that they wondered what people would say during this roast. And so tonight's program's being videotaped so that they can see this. And I understand there's a longer version that has some really juicy stuff that we haven't gotten to see yet. But they were concerned that you'd be anxious. And so, Bob, to ease your anxiety and to make you feel at home, Lee and Chris and Robbie asked me to present you with your very own Bob Douthitt Survival Pack. And Casey, could you?
My favorite food groups.
So, Bob, here is a big can of beer for you. Here's your block of cheddar cheese. And as Chris said, you've got to tape them together. Here's your Jif and French's yellow mustard. So don't be concerned, Bob, about sharing that, because frankly, I don't think you'll have much competition in this group. And it's all yours. So Bob and I met in about 1980 or 1981 at Lukens and Annis, and we all heard that this hotshot tax attorney was coming from NYU to the firm, and then we met Bob. And everything that Lee and Chris and Robbie said is absolutely true. His anal behaviors, his demanding style, his habit of doing and redoing and then redoing agreements and documents are legendary. And frankly, you may not have appreciated this, Bob, but the staff at L&A suffered. And you continued, as we all know, and the staff got stressed. And you were oblivious. And then, Bob, Janet McFarland let loose. So Janet down here, who actually works with me now, has been with the firm for about 40 years of incredibly faithful, loyal service. And as she tells it, in that 40 years of dealing with some kind of high-intense, high-ego people, Bob is the one and only person that ever caused her to lose her temper and throw the F-bomb at him. And wait, you get your time. And if you know Janet, she got Bob's attention, at least for a day or so. And then as the boys were laid, Bob decided that the beauty industry was a bit more his style. I haven't quite figured that out, but I always thought that you felt that somehow that this crazy idea could improve your personal looks, or maybe your personal style, or maybe could even make you more youthful or sexy. I don't know where you would get that idea from, but and as many of us know, you started the Great Clips franchise here in Spokane. And you went from sitting behind a desk to helping clients, sitting behind a desk helping clients, to sweeping floors and cleaning up hair and managing staffs of people at multiple locations and becoming your own contractor and things you knew nothing about. And the fact of the matter is that the beauticians that Bob hired were so good that the business took off. But Bob wanted more. So he pushed for more productivity from the beauticians. And so, as an incentive, our friend Bob took his hairstylist to Puerto Vallarta. And as Bob's good friends, Dick and Leslie Edwards, who are in London, really wanted to be here, but they shared a story that, oh yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to form your own mental picture, and you will as I tell you this story. And this is from Leslie Edwards. After Bob's stint at L&A, he ended up purchasing the Great Clips franchise, and to entice his employees to reach their potential, he offered a trip to his top stylists and managers. I think 13 gals qualified for the first trip to Puerto Vallarta. I don't know, were you there, Diane?
Depends on which one.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, she says, I can't remember where he stayed, but the resort was one of those all-inclusive on-the-beach deals with meals and beverages included. And as you can imagine, some of the gals hung around Bob. And of course, there was a meeting or two, so he could write this off. When he was, he is a tax attorney, when he was with all the girls. So here's the middle picture. Here's the middle picture part. Toward the end of the weekend, Bob had developed quite a reputation as the guy with the ladies. So walking through the bar, Bob, or the other people were having a drink, and they kind of poke their neighbor and say, well, look, hey, you know who that is? That's Spokane Bob. Wow, he really must be something. And as Dick and Leslie said, yes, you are something, Bob, and they love you. We love Spokane Bob very much. Well, so the beauty industry wasn't enough for Bob. He needed a new challenge, and he chose politics. Decided to run for the school board. Now, those of you who know me know that I've been around Republican politics for a long, long time. It's the right way, Mo. And I've chaired and co-chaired a lot of different school bond issues and M&O levies and political campaigns and whatnot. So Bob is not a Republican, but he says he's more of a Bill Clinton kind of a Democrat. And so, he was running for the school board not long after Clinton went out of office. And you remember Bob Clinton was criticized for having donors stay overnight in the Lincoln bedroom of the White House. So, she got it. She knows what's coming. So Bob came to me and asked for some advice about running for office. And he showed me his campaign materials, and he had a donor envelope, with little check marks. And rather than what we Republicans put the gold, silver, and bronze contribution levels. The Windows know about that, that are so common. Bob, in his contribution envelope, offered the Lincoln bedroom rate. And for me, I kept looking for Doug Clark, who would catch wind of it. And then in his second race, Bob asked me for a bit more help, and this time he asked me to co-chair the race. And we had a wonderful campaign committee. A lot of the people are here tonight. This time we asked to see his campaign signs, and they were olive green. Now, Nancy Fike, you were on the school board. Would you ever use olive green campaign signs? I mean, the military uses olive green for camouflage so you won't see it. And we said, no, Bob, you want people to see your name. So there's Douthitt blue. And you'll see a couple of campaign signs out by the front door, because you've all just walked into the first re-election campaign for Bob Douthitt tonight. Anyhow, Bob worked really hard on that race. If he spent an hour at his computer in their upstairs bedroom office working on his statement for why you were running for the school board, you spent 40 or 50 hours on that sucker. Were you out doorbelling as I recommended, Bob? How many times did I say, Bob, you got to get out with the people. You got to go doorbelling. No, just like his LNA days, he knew that he had to draft that sucker. He had to redraft it, revise it, two-hole punch it, refine that statement, and even if nobody would ever read it. Now, Casey, would you hand that to me? So, Bob, just so everybody knows, Bob does have his own two-hole punch. This was given to him. It's gold-plated when he left Lukens and Anna's, Janet and Barb and some of the staff. And man, look at it. Look at this. It's worn off. He's actually used this thing. This is yours, isn't it, Bob?
It certainly is.
That's right. So, well, Bob won that race. We're glad for it. He was a bit chagrined, though, on election night that he only got 54.9% of the vote, even though his competitor received only 44.5%. It was a landslide by any standard, but Bob the attorney, Bob the competitor, Spokane Bob wanted more. But the thing that I've always remembered about my great friend Bob Douthitt was something that he said to me one night after one of our campaign meetings. We'd had a big meeting around the Douthitt dining table with the whole committee, and after everybody left, we were standing around talking. And what he said to me captures the real Bob Douthitt that I know and I love, and why I think you were the perfect person to serve on our Spokane School Board. Bob, you may not remember, but you said to me, I just can't get over the fact that all these people want to help me, that they want to work on my campaign. I'm not sure how to deal with that. I've never experienced that kind of generosity from others before. So, Bobby, with your wry smile, your wonderful dry sense of humor, your high standards that you set for yourself and all you do, and certainly the wonderful humility that are all things that we love about you, thank you from the bottom of our heart for your service to the kids of this community. They have a bright future, and we thank you for making that future very bright. And Bob, like your sons, we all look forward to the next challenge. I think the boys are correct. Get out there, go blow up that alligator again that you used in your audition many years ago. Go for it. Survivor, season 35.
Thanks, Bill. We should have no trouble getting out of here by 9 or 10 o'clock after that 2-minute presentation. Now, our first presenter was a good friend of mine. The second presenter I'd never met before until about a half hour ago, Mr. Ed Rowe down here. Surprise, surprise, another attorney. So grab a drink, From everything, Ed started about the same time, my notes said, but I learned earlier, and I'll let Ed share this, that he was actually on the committee that was part of hiring Bob. And so some of the blame, I guess, goes to this guy. So with that, Ed Rowe, come on up.
Okay, now, that 3 minutes was a maximum or a minimum, Bill? Because I don't think I can come up with 3 minutes of stuff to say about Bob Douthitt, you know? do what I can. But I'm going to start by impersonating him, and everybody knows Bob will recognize this. Are you ready? Not bad. One more time. 37 years I've been practicing this. I won't attempt to impersonate the grin, though. Bob, give him the grin. Give him the Douthitt grin. Look at, there it is. There it is. I get it. Anyway, when Bob first told us he was running for the school board and he won the election the first time around, my initial reaction was probably different from most. All I could think of was how he was going to drive the rest of the board nuts. He is a very thoughtful and very deliberate guy. And most decisions Bob makes, he takes a legal pad, draws a line down the center, and says pros and cons. And my guess is he was doing that in school board meetings. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if he wasn't. So, anyway, but the guy that Bob really reminds me of the most is Walter Mitty. And I'm assuming because he always wants to be somebody that he can never be. Starting first we have Bob the Survivor. And who can forget the photographs of Bob in his bathtub covered with blocks or little chips of ice, trying to persuade the producer of Survivor that he has what it takes. Well, apparently Bob didn't have what it takes because he didn't get on there. And then later, his family had a team that was participating in the school district's spelling bee several years ago, and Bob gets up with his family on his team, and he has purchased a flesh-colored sleeve with tattoos all over it. So that's Bob the street tough, you know? He was trying to be that. And then you have Bob the would-be game show contestant, where he wanted to get on Jeopardy, and he didn't have what it takes for that either. Was very upset, especially when I think another member of the school board did better than he did, getting on. I don't know if she's here or not or what her name was. I won't mention any names, but anyway, do that. Okay, and then we have Bob the Special Forces hero. Bob would love nothing more. He would call me once in a while and say, "Hey, I'm on my way to the gym. I'm doing my Rambo workout." I said, "Okay, good, Bob." And then he sends me a CD with the Navy SEALs Buds thing in Coronado, California, and he would just love to be a SEAL or Rambo. And then, and I think this is one of the reasons why he probably went into the beautician business, is Bob the mafia hitman, but he couldn't qualify because he was upset that his hair couldn't be slicked straight back. Like, I'm sure he's tried it in front of his mirror many times, but you all see Pat Riley and some of these guys on TV, they have the hair slicked straight back. And then finally, I will say that we have a nickname for Bob because he got into The Wire, the TV show based in Baltimore. I did some binge watching on that together. And there's a character on that played by Wood Harris named Avon Barksdale. And Bob told us, he said, "I want to be known as Avon." And you can't give yourself a nickname. As George Costanza tried to do that with T-Bone one time, but Bob couldn't. He couldn't. But I still call Bob Avon. And I may be the only one who does. I don't know. Okay, I'm the only one. So that's a fad that still has not yet caught on. I was Stringer Bell for like about a week. That ended. Well, that's really all I have. Bob trying to be people that he can never be, and that kind of thing. And the irony of this whole thing is that there are a lot of people, myself included, that would really like to be more like Bob. Thank you for your friendship. You are the man, Bob. Now, let me make an exit here.
Well, after listening to our first two presenters, I'm going to have to not use my attorney jokes because they both did such a good job, even without my illustrious presentation. Our next presenter, much more subdued, much more energetic, Shelley Redinger, Superintendent of the Board. If you would like to come up and let me just...
Shorter. Well, I do want everyone to know if you're looking on Craigslist, the school district has boxes of binders for sale. So if anyone wants to buy those, we've got them. So Bob is amazing. He's missed at WASDA. They miss you. The Olympia can't function without you there. They can't solve McCleary. So just, if you can help out, that'd be great. But I do have some special VIPs that couldn't be here tonight that wanted me to read a few words. So the first one, and forgive me, I'm starting with a Republican, so I hope that's all right. Bob was always wondering what I was. It's still a mystery to him, so that's good. So Kathy McMorris Rogers, and it's kind words. So she said, as a school board member, you are presented with a unique opportunity to make a lasting impact on young people's lives through advocacy and public service. Your work building partnerships within the community between families, businesses, nonprofits, and citizens alike has been critical in developing the next generation of strong citizens. That's just a piece of what she said, so it's a very nice letter. Kevin has the originals, so we'll make sure you get the originals.
They're in a binder.
We also have, and I wanted to tease them because they always do everything together, so you can guess who they are. Senator Andy Billig, Representative Tim Ormsby, and Representative Marcus Riccelli. They're quite busy trying to solve McCleary. And in the middle, I wanted to read there, they said, your public service is a model for others to follow. Spokane has benefited from your thoughtful leadership, and we have been lucky to have you as part of our school board and as a member of our community. And then we also have, Gary Livingston wasn't able to make it, but he really wanted to share a few words. He said the community was very fortunate to have your tireless leadership, and thank you. There's no community service more important than educating our children, our future, Gary. And then last, Senator Baumgartner also working on McCleary. And he had an idea that hopefully we'll make a lot of money tonight. Maybe we could send it to Olympia. So just a thought. With April 18th falling during the last week of the legislative session, I cannot attend your retirement roast. Hopefully the evening will result in some significant support for the Spokane Public Schools Foundation. Have a fun evening, and thanks again for your service. And I just wanted to end by saying I have a funny story about Bob. So we have something very important to me is building relationships with each board member. And so we have our monthly one-on-ones. And I kind of go to a place where people like to have lunch. And it's just a chance for us to reconnect on everything. And Bob always had his sheets and charts and everything. That was very helpful. I tried to get him to eat lunch first, so because I was usually hungry, but that worked. And but periodically, I had formed a relationship with Allison, his mother. She had invited Bob and I to go and speak with some of the women at her retirement home about education models in other countries, and I very much enjoyed our visits and our time having lunch with Allison. But I want to tell you a funny story. So a few months ago, Allison had been in and out of the hospital a little bit. I know Bob was spending a lot of time helping her out, going to the hospital, and we were going to the Wandering Table, which was close to his home and convenient, and Allison was there. She'd had her hair done, looked lovely, and we had a walker. She had her walker in her purse, and so Bob drove right up to the Wandering Table, and I was helping her out of the car, and we were walking, and he was going to go park the car, and we were walking away, and he got that boyish, charming little grin on his face, a little mischief in his eyes, and he said, "I'll see you two in a week." So, and there was truly a look of fear in Allison's eyes. So we love you, Bob, and we miss you.
Thanks, Shelley. Our next presenter, Dina Brower, current president of the board. When she heard of this project, Dina immediately contacted us and said, "I want to be involved." Imagine our disappointment when we learned all she wanted to do was talk good things about Bob. It was like, ah, man, come on. But Dina Rauer, come on up here.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Thank you. Quick hug to Diane for loaning us her husband Lo these many years. And yeah, I don't think I'm as nasty as these other guys, so I'll keep it on the down low. Board President, I have a gavel. I call this meeting to order. Wait, this isn't a school board meeting, but I have a gavel and I'm prepared to use it. So perhaps this could be a Phi Omicron Beta meeting. That's Greek for FOB, Friends of Bob. Think about it. What if we started a new fraternal order, fashioned after the way Bob served on the school board? For starters, members in our fraternity would serve for 9 years, 9.5, matching Bob's years of service, during which time Phi Omicron Beta members would consume countless cups of coffee, just as Bob did. If someone was curious about the operations of the board, Bob offered to meet for coffee and chat. If someone had a problem and sought assistance, Bob met for coffee to chat. If someone was ticked off and wanted to vent, Bob's your guy. He met for coffee and he'd chat. He'd listen, but he had this brilliant strategy where it's hard to stay mad at him, that laugh. He would pull you in with a story, and before long, you'd forget what you were mad about. Like the story about the canoe trip where you towed the guy with the carcass? What was it, a deer carcass? If you don't know that story, you gotta ask him. And that's just the beginning of the story. Who knows? Anybody heard that? It is a hoot. So that's what he does. He gets you kind of in that soft spot, and then your anger, it all just melts away. Anyways, back to Phi Omicron Beta. Our official color would be gold. This was Bob's primary color when we did our color inventory. You know, one of those where you do your personality types. Gold people are supposed to be obedient, I don't know, maybe, allegiant, faithful, dependable, efficient, helpful, systematic, and orderly. I'd say that pretty much describes Bob, particularly the part about being orderly. As his boys chimed in on the video, those who have ever received emails from Bob knows that Bob loves to use outlines. He has topics with subtopics with sub-subtopics with sub-sub-sub-subtopics. And they go on and on for pages. I've never seen a more detailed email. And don't ever try to read them on your phone. They go on for days. But as orderly as his emails were, his filing method is even more impressive. We've heard about that. Bob accumulated 9 years of files and binders meticulously organized, though I never knew why he needed them, because he so easily, on demand, just recalled the most, I don't know, just random, he knew dates, data, times of things that happened 10 years ago, and he would just recall them as if it happened yesterday. The final matter of business of Phi Omicron Beta is to determine our mascot. In this case, it would have to be a dog, not just any dog, the underdog. Bob would be sure to consider all perspectives before arriving to any conclusions, using Socratic inquiry to ask what at times seemed an endless series of questions. Bob has a way of turning over every stone and making sure nothing is overlooked or taken for granted. Bob, it was a pleasure to serve with you on the school board. You were an amazing mentor to not only myself, but the other board members in the room. I think they're in the overflow. We've got Jarrell Haynes, Paul Schneider, and Mike Weiser joining us this evening, all here. And the benefit of your leadership has exceeded our community and has reached every corner of the state. On behalf of the board, your dedication, commitment, and service are all greatly appreciated. It was an honor to work with you. We wish you and Diane the best in the year to come. And this meeting of Phi Omicron Beta is adjourned.
Thanks, Dina. Our next presenter is, let me get his title correctly. I've gotten to know Kevin over the last few years. I call him the hardest working man in show business. He is the Director of Community Relations for Spokane Public Schools. So we have asked Kevin to come forward. He has a special presentation, as if these haven't been special enough.
Expectations? Hi, Bob. It's good to see you. Well, thank you all for coming. I don't know if you know this, all of you who are here, but one of Bob's last official duties on the board was when we sent him to China to see how the Chinese schools are working. That didn't work out so well. They sent him back.
It was 12 hours away, so it was as far away as you could.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what we did, Bob. Bob had confided to me early on, before I had reached this role, and I knew him as a friend before I actually had to kind of work for him. He confided to me early that the real reason he ever ran for school board was because he thought that a great clips at every elementary school sounded like a great idea. It was going to be your in. That was people have talked about his legendary emails. Here's a little known fact that the SPS, the Spokane Public Schools email servers, we traditionally process about 1 million emails a month amongst our 5,300 employees. That was the number in January. I checked with the Director of Tech Services before coming down today, and he confirmed it. He couldn't figure out why, but email traffic is down 50% since mid-February. We're going to save some big money on technology, is what I'm thinking. Seriously, as a member of the superintendent's cabinet, you end up spending many nights and hours with the men and women who sit there. And I think that most school board members, when I ask them, I know I've asked Jarrell and Paul this, and I'll be asking Mike it as well, after they've been there for about a year, what surprises you most about this job? And they all say the amount of time and study it takes to be an effective member in a large organization such as our district. The evenings away from family and personal commitments are very real, and for that, I'm especially thankful to the families of the men and women on our board who are understanding and give up that time as well. So tonight, I'd like to present Diane a small token of our appreciation for lending us Bob for so many nights the past 9 years. We realized all too late that we should have given you a copy 9 years ago to remind you of who that was who has occasionally popped into your home. So Bob, Diane. There you go.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm sure Diane will put that right next to her bed there on the, so she can look at that daily. We're going to give Bob a chance to come up and say a couple of words. But before I do that, I mentioned earlier that Bob put a gun to our head to allow this night to happen. And that had everything to do with the foundation. Bob said, you know, I'm not really into having a night where this is happening. He said, if we can make it a fundraiser for the Spokane Public Schools Foundation, he would relent to having this happen. So that's why we were allowed to do this tonight. There are lots of people in this room that serve in the community, but there are very few that dedicate the time, the energy, the inquisitive personality to really spend the time to research things, and Bob's that kind of guy. So it's such an honor to get to say some awkward things about Bob tonight and embarrass him as much as we can. But it was free to get in. It won't be free to get out, just so you know. So if you want to drink a little more wine and beer, we've got a couple of ways to give. There's Lynn and Jerry Winkler around right there. We can take credit, so none of this, I left my checkbook at home, or I'd write the check. Nobody leaves home without their credit card. So we got you covered there. The good news is a $300 minimum allows you to help us bring the tables back in to arrange Steve Jones' place. So if you really want to avoid that, I'd go a little above the $300 minimum, but other than that, that's no problem. So with that, we're going to give Bob a moment to come up and say a few words in his defense. Bob Douthitt.
Well, I've been dreading this moment for, 2 months now. And I even wrote stuff out with outlines and everything. But I don't think it works. So I just want to say I guess I've got two thoughts. One is, for me, I'm sort of overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed. You guys, all you people that put this together, found people who are here who are from every aspect of my life, really, in Spokane, from Lukens and Annis to Great Clips. There's Peter Aronson over there with the glasses. Peter bought my business 10 years ago. He lives in Portland. He wins the long distance award, for coming here. He's twice the businessman I ever was and did everything I was afraid to do, or too oblivious. And just from different parts of friendships from various places and everything. So it's overwhelming. At the same time, I think it's just serendipity that I'm thinking serendipity and what's special about Spokane. I think of it as, what do they call it? It's the Goldilocks effect. So I think really what this is about more than me is something special about Spokane, which is what a great place it is for volunteerism. And the serendipity part is that a month before I resigned, I happened to run into Jim Hedemark. Where's Jim? Yeah, okay. So Jim was doing Rhetoric in the Ring, which is a thing that Jim's sort of like Don King of Spokane, except for his hair's not quite. Where Jim? Let us see your hair, Jim. Yeah, okay. So Jim's hair is not quite like Don King, and he has no expensive bling, but other than that, he's every bit the promoter Don King is. And so he did Rhetoric in the Ring, where different people debate Rogers High School every year and lose. This year it was me and Paul Schneider and me. We lost, but. About a month after that, I resigned, and Jim got this idea and called these two guys and said, hey, let's do a roast. And suddenly, here we are. But that's just serendipity. There's so many people in Spokane that have done so much volunteer-wise, and I'm just going to look close by. Steve Jones, who's hosting us here, that his firm owns this building. Steve and Don Cardong. Where's Don? Yeah. I mean, they gave us Bloomsday 40 years ago and kept it going for 40 years. I mean, that's about as much of Spokane as there is. Bill Hislop over here is like Mr. Republican as a young man, and he was a U.S. attorney in his 30s, but unceremoniously dumped by President Clinton like a few months in. as soon as he shortly thereafter, he was the co-chair of the committee to get the arena built, that gave us the arena, which has been just a huge thing for Spokane. And past president, just finished up a stint as president of the State Bar Association. Steve Walker and Bill were co-chairs of our bond levy campaign at one point and helped create the 25-year plan we've got. After that, Steve's devoted some pro bono project manager for the Kroc Center over in Coeur d'Alene, which is just an enormous facility, and helped get the hub off the ground in the valley. Carol Wendell, just sitting right down here, and I'm going to stop with Carol, but I could go on. But Carol has done just about everything there is. She's on the school board 2 times, Whitworth University trustee, Hutton Settlement for 40-some years. Was a founding member of the Chase Youth Foundation or Commission and the Spokane Schools Foundation, which is where I worked with her. So, I mean, there's so many people around that do so much stuff, and I think really the Goldilocks effect that that's what says, like, for planets, you got to be like not too big and not too small. You got to have a temperature that water can exist, liquid, and everything else. But for cities and volunteers, you can't be too big or you can't network so easily. And in Seattle, you don't run into people that you work with at the grocery store, but here you do. And you can't be too small or you don't get any expertise. And we're just like a right size and we're sort of isolated, and it just makes it so easy. So there's so many people that do so much. I just take my hat off to everybody here that doesn't work for Spokane Public Schools. So let's have a hand for those people. And the other thing is the people that do work for Spokane Public Schools. We have a treasure in Spokane Public Schools. My parents moved here 45 years ago, sight unseen, for 2 reasons. One was it was their friends told them it was inexpensive and they got good schools. And the schools have gotten nothing but better. There was an article in the New York Times last month, talking about how rigor, giving kids harder courses actually makes them perform better, and how that was doing. We outperform our demographic. We do way better on the achievement gap. If you look at poverty versus achievement, we are above the state line and flatter than the state line. We have cutting-edge programs for high achievers and for struggling students. I mean, we've got a gem of a school district here, and the way that happens is mainly because there's 3,300 full-time equivalents, 4,000 plus employees that every day work their butts off to try to help our kids. And so now I want to hear a cheer for the people that do work for Spokane Public Schools. For me, it's been a great challenge to be able to do this kind of complicated, difficult work, I think it is, and also just an honor to be associated with the people that work so hard every day and are so talented. And it's something I've always enjoyed and will always cherish. And thank you very much for this event, to the extent it's about me. I'm impressed with your cleverness in getting my kids to divulge all their psychic problems. And, and I hope this does well for the foundation. So.
Leave it to Bob to take about half of his allotted time to point out all the service of the different individuals in the room. That's the kind of guy he is. So we're just about done. I want to thank a couple of people. Jim Hedemark, that had the brain to set this and then did a lot of the arranging here. Bill and Deborah Hislop, his lovely bride, is around here someplace. Steve Jones, Iman, Allison, Hunter, and Jones have allowed us the use of this beautiful mansion, and he opens this place up so often to everyone. Dina and Jason, I know I saw Dina, thank you. Jerry and Lynn Winkler are being put to work. So again, don't make them barricade the doors with their Visa capture machines. Dick and Carol Wendell, thank you. The three amigos, the three boys that put together that. If you couldn't read that, Lee was like the middle of the night between feedings or something when he was trying to get his put together. Janet McFarland did wonderful work for us. Dave Cotlin and is it Boson Films? Boson, wonderful job helping arrange all this. Mo, I'm sure you did something, so Mo Ramos. I never want to forget to thank Mo. And anyway, thanks everyone for coming tonight and honoring our good friend Bob Douthitt.